So this is the PC4Man Super Tournament organized by Team GP. They organize, obviously have a little team. We cast them in the World Team League, and just like they run a bunch of events, and this was a bit of a bigger event that they ran. And happy to obviously get involved into. I mean, we obviously didn't cast this live. This was covered by Alpha X. If you want to go and watch the full VODs already or anything, Alpha X covered this event. We're gonna do a little bit of like just what we usually do, and when we kind of cast replays of events, we're going to kind of pick and choose our matches a bit. We're not going to do the entire thing. Depends how many days I try and fill content with this for, basically. But that's basically how this goes. So depends how many days I need to kind of have extra casts for. But yeah, basically today we're going to start on this series, and we'll go kind of from chat's choice from the round of 16 games, and then the next couple of days we'll do some round of 8s, round of 4s, and obviously the finals and stuff. Top right, Blue Terran player then is Maru from Team NV, and I gotta say I was kind of impressed that they convinced Maru to show up for a tournament. That's a new one. There's actually another tournament coming up soon that has Maru in that I think is pretty cool as well. I'll talk about that. I guess maybe because he's not in GSL for once, it's like, well, he may as well play a couple online cups and join the no GSL life. So yeah, I guess it makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, there's another tournament that Maru's playing in that I'll be covering on my own channel soon. We'll talk more about it when it's announced. I don't want to be the guy to announce it and like take away any hype from other people or anything. So yeah. So Maru in the upper right, is in the bottom left hand side. We got ourselves the red Protoss player Trust. Trust is actually someone I've not heard of so much. Obviously, he's on Team GP. He's kind of got probably an invite from that, considering it's a Team GP event. Trust has been around and never really had like any crazy good results, but he's always been that player who's been at like a very just solid level of play, right? Like, he's not going to go out and win you a GSL or win himself a GSL. But, you know, I would never count him out. Like, I don't think he's going to beat Maru. I think, in some regards, this series may be a little silly to cast just because I'd be shocked if Maru dropped a map here. It'd be fun to see what Trust does just to kind of try and fight against Maru, right? See how much of a fight he can bring to the table. I'm kind of excited for that alone, so. Looks like the Marine just nibbling up those rocks, as we do see 2 barracks behind this opener. So it's going to be a 3 racks to set us off here from the from Mr. Maru. So a little 3 rack setup to begin with. We do have our Adept is coming on a bit of a journey to the top side of the map as well. So he's going to come up to the top and Trust going to try and find some information early. Stargate on the way in. I'm trying to think when the last time I really saw Trust play was, or if there's anything about Trust that I that I really remember. I'm just going to look him up quickly. Obviously, I feel like he must have played Team League at some point, at least for like a couple of matches, right? Yeah, he played in an Open Cup America. He actually played at ESL Open Cup last night. He beat Gumiho, which is actually pretty cool because Gumiho has actually come back and looking decent. He took a map of Kua recently in ESL Open Cup last week, so yeah, I mean, just to give you an idea of where he's at, he's good, right? Like, if you can take a map of Kua, you're pretty good. So I think that's enough of an explanation to let you guys know that this, like I say, Maru's the favorite, but don't think this is just like a full-on walkover. You still got to kind of play your game and play properly. Of course, Maru is pretty good at sometimes just making people look like they don't know what they're doing, and that maybe they can't play the game. We'll see if that will be one of, oh, this will be one of those kind of series. That warp gate already coming through. As the Phoenix are just perusing. Find a mule. It's actually a nice pickup. Had about half life left on it. Maru's pushing though. One of the big issues when you're playing Phoenix is a 3 racks usually. And to have kept building Phoenix, that has me very concerned. But just about to get up to 3 gateways. The only thing that might turn Maru around is the fact there's no 3rd base, right? But I actually kind of think that with this amount of Marines against just what Phoenix Adept, I guess you got to fight this battery. Phoenix is going to lift up a few Marines, get some kills very quickly. Let's see. I mean, Maru's going to commit, so we're actually not going to have to imagine. I guess we'll see a little bit. Okay, he doesn't fully commit. He's just going to trade here. Now he does stem. Not gonna like full on run up the ramp. No super battery popped either. He's just gonna trade for a lot of the gateway units, super battery pops, and then he can't do much else. I kind of imagine him going in a little harder, forcing the super battery right away, and then target firing that down, then trading out. Obviously, that's not quite how this ended up playing, though, so... Just him up again. Only one adept in the front as that was taking a lot of damage with the super battery still active. Now we do break in. Now we are going to get so much damage done. Yeah. I mean... You basically trade out like ground units for ground units, but the way that works is it's just so much more expensive for the Protoss player. And they are just now going to be so much weaker on the ground throughout. And now we're going to get a few more Marines stimming through for a couple extra probe kills. So yeah, Maru finds the damage in the end. And this is why playing Phoenix is just a little scary against 3 racks. A lot of the time you see like an Oracle, 1 Phoenix, and then they're like, wait a sec, it's 3 racks. And people will be like, abort mission. And the next thing you know, they're just going straight on. Like, they only use the Stargate for that 1 Phoenix. They cancel Phoenix number 2, and they just kind of completely pull out away from it. So... yeah, it's definitely not a great build order kind of matchup here for Trust to begin with. When did he actually see the 3X? I feel like he must have seen it kind of late, right? Because the Phoenix went that aggressive right away. This Phoenix managed to sneak in for a little bit more damage. Turned away, obviously, a turret in position. Works pretty well. Just as a deflector on those Phoenix, as we do have them rotating back up around the top. Gonna try and jump on top of those medevacs. Medevacs which will pull back and be repaired by a few of these SCVs. So, obviously, at this stage, Maru is probably just thinking about, okay, let's get set up into a little bit of a larger army, and let's kind of just go from there. And I'm just going to be seeing our Phoenix going to split up a little bit. Let's see how Bioforce is going to be coming down the map then. So away we go. A couple of Phoenix already taking shots. I mean, it's really going to be a question of how many units do you have. There are 2 Colossus out. Like, Thermal Lance is about to be done. I mean, these are all big positives. As you go for a Phoenix, don't quite get it. I mean, the Colossus is just a necessity right now. And with extended Thermal Lens, unless you can somewhat fight from a distance, what needs to happen in this fight is that Trust needs to get those tanks lifted ASAP. This isn't good. Anytime you walk into, then out of tanks and take a few shots for free, that's just not pretty. The problem is these Phoenix have multiple jobs. They kind of need to fight the Vikings to keep the Colossus safe, but they also want to try and flank and lift up those tanks to also keep the Colossus safe. And without charge, you've got no other real good way of closing in on those tanks quickly, so it just feels like there's too many things that these Phoenix need to do, and there's just not enough of them to do it all. I'm going to see a little bit of a lift on some of these bio units, and they're going to be decent pickoffs, right? As you will slowly work your way through them. But now the Phoenix taking shots from the Vikings from afar, so Maru just sort of taking this as a trade-out, essentially. Phoenix are there, the Vikings getting pushed back. The bio army kind of wants to stem on forward. Go back and forth that little bit. Again, Charge is going to be finishing up kind of soon here from Trust. Still these few Vikings. I mean, they don't do much during the Super Battery, but the Super Battery is now fading, so Trust goes seconds before Charge. I feel like he wanted to go with a little bit of juice left on the Super Battery so the Colossus would stay alive against the first few volleys. But then he obviously ended up engaging just a few moments before Charge. Then he force-fielded his Zealots out, and I mean, this fight was a complete mess, to be kind of honest with you guys. This was not going to do it. Because now these Zealots are going to just charge into their death, and there should be Maru taking a game number 1 of this best of 3. Plain and simple, really. Trust going to try and stand a little bit longer, but there's, like I say, not much more to really play for here. GG. Maru will take game number 1. There's obviously up 1-0 in the upper right-hand side of the map is going to be the blue Terran player Maru. He is going to instantly send an SCV out across to the bottom left-hand side, so already going for a little bit of a proxy opening, put a racks on the map, get some pressure going. Nothing really too crazy about that. We obviously see this a lot of the time. Maru especially someone who really likes to do this kind of stuff as well. PhotonMan123, thanks so much for that 31-month resub. Million more to go. Progress. Getting there, guys. On the way to the million-month resub. It's a hell of a lot of years, though. A million months is what? Well, just a bit less than 100,000 years, I guess. Maybe 90,000. Kind of a lot. Probably more like 84,000 years, I guess. I'm now trying to math in my head. 84 and 2 8.4s, 16.8. That's about it, right? 84, it's a little bit over. eBay blocks, then the Reaper shows up. So here's the problem here is obviously the Reaper shows up and you got eBay block down, so you kind of want this Zealot to go, oh, probe is going to get the full surround. That is massive. Huge surround right there. $83,333.3 recurring. Well, forgive me, guys. I feel like getting down to 84,000 was okay. Was going to be a bit less than that. I'm okay with my guess. I'm happy with what I guessed, you know? I'm okay. I can live with this. Maybe help us back up into this main, so trying again to get a little bit of damage done. That's a couple probes. I mean, overall, Maru, obviously first Reaper, not a success story, but getting back in with another Reaper, don't think we can be all too upset about that. Who win the King of the Hill? Max Spax lost to Clam 02 in the end, so Clam came out the King of the Hill. She did last time as well, though. Last time I think he was like the last player to play. This time he was second last as well, so. Second locked on the Stalker here. Interesting to know, obviously, Maru is still kind of one base in this, right? Like, he's still just up on that one base. He's not quite made it down to the low ground just yet, so just kind of chilling. As we do have the Stalker putting some damage out. Now, Cyclone is going to take a few more shots. Orbital going to lift off, and it's going to make its way down to the natural expansion, so it's going to work its way over there. Those few SCVs moving around. Blink coming up from Trust. I'm just on 3 gates, though, so there's not much you can do with this. You can warp in aggressively, but you don't have much high ground vision to go for. I mean, there's no tech behind this either, right? There's no Robo, there's no Forge. It's going to be a very aggressive 3-gate attack. Only 31 probes set up here. And your Stalker's absolutely open. They can do some damage, hoping that the chaotic start will somewhat teeter over in his favor. Especially being aggressive so soon. I mean, there's 2 tanks out, though, and a Banshee. I don't really think he meant to break this set of units. He's going to blink for the first tank straight away, though. The bunker wasn't ready. The problem is the tank on the high ground is going to do so much damage, and the SCVs help to slow down progress towards this tank. This tank will die. And the Marine count ain't doing great. So these last few Stalkers are kind of sort of, living for a while. Now some SCVs will go down as well, so Maru actually taking some damage here toward the very end. Actually ended up getting hit pretty hard at the last few moments. This is chaotic because now extra stalkers show up. The only problem is they have to blink to get in. Then they don't necessarily have blinks away from SCVs or anything, so that's maybe somewhat of a concern. Across the map, the Banshee starts to deal damage, so it's going to be putting some counter pressure on. So the counter pressure happening as we speak. And back to these SCVs taking damage too. Tank does get sieged up, so the new tank in a pretty safe position. Meanwhile, this Banshee just picks off one of the Stalkers that comes to try and deal with it. So he gets 6 probes, you kill the Stalker. You have lost 17 SCVs though, down by 10 workers. The only good news here is obviously Maru is starting to kill a lot of Stalkers. All these Stalkers that have been in the main have gone down apart from these 2, and one of those, even that was lucky to get away because it was super low HP. Now we have 2 more Stalkers, 3 more Stalkers again warping in. Here's the other problem kind of going on from this, right? Is that the tech from Trust is still just not there. Third base is on the way, but it's still only a Twilight Council. There's a robo facility up, but what are we doing with it? Finally an Observer starts. So we're on the way there, but it's not like this is a regular game where he's just been teching throughout. No, absolutely not. This game is slowed down a lot on Trust's point of view based on where they, Trust usually would be at this stage. So that's something to keep in mind as well here as we kind of continue watching how this goes and how this sets up. As in Raven now on the way out. Another Banshee around the bottom, cloakless. So if the Stalkers are warping in aggressively, a Banshee on the other side of the map can work absolute wonders and get so much done. And there's going to be 2 Stalkers here. This time the Banshee will just turn around. It's just going to wait for a better moment in time to truly make a play. Raven Stim, combat +1. All that good stuff coming through as the Starport is going to take off the tech lab. It's going to move on over to the reactor. Actually moves over to a reactor as well as we continue to get things settled down. Stim, combat +1 all still continuing on through. Additional medevacs continuing up as well. And these Marines and the Raven are going to come around the top as well. They're going to go pick off this pylon, I think, and continue from there. This pylon taking a bit of damage. Stalkers putting some hits out. Marines are going to stem forward. Stalkers have to blink away. Pylon falls. And that combat shield is going to be finishing up, and everything's going to gather back up over in that natural expansion. So as we move into Temple Archives, I mean, Maru is obviously kind of pinned back a little bit. Trust has opened a massive worker difference. He's about 20 workers up as Maru's 3rd CC is just about halfway done. So across the board looking actually pretty good for Trust here. As we come out of this setup in the game so far, gets into some really interesting positions. Is my problem for Trust still just the lack of tech? Well, maybe kind of a little bit. I mean, we've got Trust now moving into that Temple Archives, as previously mentioned, already getting a +1 shield upgrade. That's crazy. Just sort of promotes how much he's going to rely on Archons in this game, going for shields before any sort of anything else. It's not weird to get shields, but to get shields this quickly is kind of weird. He's going to start up Storm, so he's not even going to morph in a ton of Archons right away. He's going to try and save some High Templar to get energy to obviously storm things. So that leaves me kind of questioning a little bit as well. What's going to happen? That drop hits hard in the main base, and one of the big things here for, again, just Trust is that he's playing a game with very low tech still. And so drop defense is really at a minimal. And just his army is not made for... I mean, you can split it up, but when you split it up, there's no, like, one tech unit that's going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm really good against what's, being thrown in this mineral line. Now Maru is just in 2 different places, and obviously Trust is trying to deal with this. He is starting to clean up in this main. On this position, I mean, a lot of probes going down. The battery helping a lot as well. So this will be forced back. The drop on the main base being cleaned up finally, too. But that took a while, and Trust lost a lot here. He lost 17 workers, and if you look at this army graph, look how much Trust lost compared to Maru. It was an absolutely... Well, it was an absolutely one-sided engagement. Let's just put it that way. Maru just double dropping and just saying, yeah, I mean, your army's not really good for... Like, what Trust Army is good at doing is fighting all at once and overwhelming Maru a little bit right now. Just because Maru, you know, because it was a lot of charge lots, right? That was a lot of the focus. They're really good if in the very large numbers they can overwhelm and surround, they can do brilliantly. But obviously, that's not how this continued to play out. Maru then says, let's find a couple different places. And then that army's just that little bit worse. There wasn't even that many Stalkers left after losing them all earlier, so your drop defense in general was a bit weaker than it maybe should have been. Now we've got this tank position here that's extremely reminiscent of this tank position we just had on Oxide for game number 1. And yeah, that is obviously going to end up being rather problematic. Probes are dropping to harassment, and I mean a few units even rallying around the other way, so they can go for a different approach. All Maru has to do, avoid storms somewhat reasonably, and he should walk away with this 2-0. As the Prism actually goes across the map. I mean, counter storm drop right now seems a little risque, but now the Prism turned back around, so it is going to end up coming in towards this army as we push on through. Trust jumping on these couple of siege tanks, and that's when Maru's already shown up on your 4th base. So just as you started pushing back on your 3rd, your 4th is completely undefended, is going to go down, and now Maru's going to show back up on the 3rd base, of course, because that's what Maru does. And right now it just feels like Maru is just playing faster than Trust, right? And Trust just cannot keep up with this pressure everywhere. He probably could have killed this Nexus if he wanted to die for it. I don't think there was anything really stopping him from getting that kill. I think that was absolutely a possibility right there. I think that had some good potential. Anyways, it doesn't matter too much because he keeps the units alive, and that's what Maru prefers more, keeping these units alive to deal damage at a later point when he's sure they're going to deal damage. That's obviously what he's just continuing to do here, as these few Zealots and an Archon, a couple of Immortals will try and chase units away up this right-hand side. And I mean, I say try, they will do that rather successfully, just that's pretty much all they're doing, chasing units away. They're not truly winning any fights here. As Maru's supply difference just gets further and further ahead, gets more and more comfortable for Maru. I know, guys, I'm saying Maru this, Maru that, but it really is just one of those games where Maru has been kind of the one in control throughout, and he is going to pick up the 2-0 to win out this series.